One of the main issues of long-distance athletes and trainees is the stomach discomfort and bloody stool, which is caused by a process called hypoperfusion of the intestinal tract. In this content, I'll be explaining what hypoperfusion is, as well as looking at a sugar that can be consumed that might be beneficial for the condition and why. So stick around.
Learn Your Body, a science-based education.
This study I've gleaned the information is linked to this content along with my notes and any follow-up amendments. In this study, in brief, the researchers recruited 10 triathletes with over 3 years of experience in long-distance training and had them bike for 3 hours at a moderate intensity. The participants all consumed either water, glucose plus fructose, or glucose plus sucrose, and were asked over 3 hours of cycling, consuming each of these carbohydrate beverages, if they were experiencing stomach discomfort, and if so, how bad. The researchers also took some blood measures of a particular biomarker that would help quantify the amount of intestinal death occurring. But let me speak to that last point for a minute. Intestinal death. What? When you exercise intensely, your blood supply is shunted from your core to your extremities and your muscles to deliver nutrients to the muscles, but also to release heat. As a result, the intestinal cells are left with a low amount of blood delivery and neglected of nutrients and oxygen. They can then die. This is called hypoperfusion. However, when we consume food, the intestines take up a large amount of the blood because it's needed to transport the nutrients from the intestines to the rest of the body. But when we are in a competition or training, we can't have a turkey roast sitting in our stomach. It means less blood is available for performance, and it is massively uncomfortable as the body is split between two objectives: digesting the food and delivering your performance expectations. So, consuming a sugary drink is thought to help by being lighter, diluted, and might coax some blood to stay around the intestines, allowing for adequate perfusion without compromising performance. So, with that in mind, what did the researchers find by comparing these four conditions: water, glucose only, glucose plus fructose, or glucose plus sucrose consumption? The researchers found that intestinal distress increased in only one condition, the glucose-only condition. This meant that water, fructose, and sucrose conditions were similarly low in intestinal distress. That's great. This is a subjective measure, however, so the researchers decided to look at levels of IFABP, known as intestinal fatty acid binding protein, which is a protein specific to intestinal cells. If the levels are raised in the bloodstream, that means there is more cell death, implying potential hypoperfusion. Interestingly, they found no statistically significant difference between the four conditions. I realize the graphs seem rather distinct from one another, but statistically speaking, they are not different. That said, the statistics did come close to showing a difference between the sucrose and fructose conditions relative to the water alone, and maybe they would have found a difference if they had more participants to the study. But according to the data, we can only say there's a mild positive effect to no effect of fructose or sucrose on intestinal cell death. So, all in all, this data implies glucose alone is the worst for intestinal comfort, and there may be a slight benefit to sugar like sucrose in protecting the intestines from hypoperfusion-associated death. However, there are other benefits to these sugars in training and competition performance that I've outlined in other content, which I encourage for you to check out. With that, I hope this proved useful, and I hope to have the pleasure of speaking with you in the future. Bye.